I went to see the new movie Going in Style, and this is my review. Welcome to my channel. I focus on tabletop role-playing games, video games, and science fiction. I'm old enough to remember when Going in Style, the one in 1979, came out. And that movie was just side-splittingly funny and so bitterly sad. It had a wonderful combination of some great actors. We had George Burns and Art Carney. And then I go to this new one. And what happens is, unfortunately, I'm going to do a comparison between the two. And if you just want to see what somebody says about the new one, fine. You can find what other people say. I'm going to compare the two and talk about it. The one in 2017 is, my phrase would be Disneyfied. They've done two things that are very different from the 1979 film. In 1979 film, two of the three characters die in very sad ways. And in the 2017, all three walk away, and it's a happy and sweet and uplifting film. Where in 1979, it was much more a discussion about what it's like to be old, which is something, when you're my age and have survived surviving stage 4 colon cancer, it's a different, it's a different view. You have, what is it like when as you're getting older, and what would you do? And in the original film, it's so bittersweet. They rob the bank and so on, and then they go to Vegas and they win a bunch of money. And this is one of them dies, and they're looking after it, and it's got some great lines that are there. And I'll let you go look it up out there. But it's the last line. It says, no tin pan place like this can hold me, because it's you have to understand, these guys, they didn't do it to get back at their pensions. They did it because there was nothing else that was exciting in their life. This was starting to be, they had such a boring, mundane life, and they know they're toward the end of their life, and they just didn't know what to do. And actually, this movie, the night one in 1979, if my memory is correct, is what revived George Burns' career. He had basically passed, nobody had been doing anything, and that's where he did the Oh God films, which, well, you can argue good or bad. He did do those. The first, when they came out, they were very interesting, though you can argue I don't particularly like their implications for Christianity, but that's a different discussion. But then also, if my memory is correct, is that after Going in Style, Art Carney, who really hadn't done any movies in many, many years, did Harry and Tonto, I believe was the name of it. So it brought to the forefront two actors, and I think it was Lee Strasberg was the third one, who passed away shortly after the film. So they were, they were all three toward the end of their lives, and it gave them a revived impetus in the movie. This film was just too, it was too sweet. The ending was too sweet. It wasn't the bittersweet ending that was in the original, which was what really grabbed you with the 1979 film, was that here are these characters, they sit there, and the guy he says, I don't have to clean up for myself anymore. I've got 3 meals a day. He says, the guys are good to me because they get away with the money, and people are hoping that I'll tell somebody where the money is, and because they know that they've stolen the money, but they don't know the full extent of it, and they don't know where the money is. And he says the guys in prison treat him good because they're hoping that he will maybe tell them where the money is, because he said that he buried it, which he didn't. But it's such an interesting film. It's an interesting twist. The current film, there were a couple of laughs. I will admit that. It was enjoyable. To me, it was, shall we say, somewhat insipid. It wasn't the inspiring film. And they had to add this slam at the banks, which wasn't in the original film. In the original film, it was not because they'd been particularly ripped off or anything like that. It's that they were facing old age and were bored. And they thought, there's nothing going on in my life. So why not? Where in the modern film, it's, oh, we lost our pensions and the banks are doing this and that. Yes, that happens. I worked with someone who had their pension completely destroyed. It was I was working at a company, and one of our competitors, it happened right around the same time as Enron. And Enron, people went to jail for the Enron debacle. But people lost all their savings, all their retirement benefits. And I worked with someone where the board of directors made the decision to drive the value of the stock to zero. She had worked for the company for over 20 years and had built up a nice retirement nest egg, but it was all employee stock options, so it was all in one stock, and the board of directors overnight decided to drive the value to zero because there were tax benefits for it. And they walked away completely free. But that is a different discussion than what was in the film. The film was talking, they put a little bit of this in there, the company's moving offshore and so on, and they had to add the politics of today into the film when the original film had a very different feel. It was focused on the elderly. It wasn't a slam against banks and a slam against, the bailout of the banks and so on. It was more about old age. And I guess that touched me more than this current film. This current film was, yes, they talk a little bit about old age, but it's all sweetness and light at the end. It's not that the characters die. It says that you have two of the characters. The excitement of the bank robbery is just too much, and the other one, that they go out in style. That's why it was going in style, was you were going out in style. And that's not what's in this current film. And that's why I recommend, if you're interested in a film, get a copy of the 1979 Going in Style. It's on, I looked, it was like $2. And I highly recommend that film. And this current film, okay, it's got a laugh or two, but it's, quote, reimagined. I read one of the things and I go, this is just, it's too Disneyfied. It's too sweet. They added a sweet, insipid ending rather than the really bittersweet ending in the original that really grabbed you. You really, emotionally. I remember watching it when it first came out, and how it grabbed you and made you really think about old age at that time. And now that I'm much older, it's even more important to realize that's the feeling. What do you do when you're that age? And so on. And this reminds me of, you take a look at I'm going to give an interesting comparison. You look at the movie Breaking Bad, the series Breaking Bad, and I like the first two seasons. And after that, it lost me. But the first season was such a grabber. If you knew you were dying and you weren't going to leave anything for your family, what would you do? That was the question of the first season of Breaking Bad. And here, you've got Going in Style. The original movie, if you're old and you know you're going to die soon because you're just old. A story I heard, a friend of a family member was saying this, that she was 94 years old. And some of the changes in healthcare, she's on a very fixed income, and the changes in healthcare, they were taking away another $30 out of her Medicare because of the changes from Obamacare, because now she had to require take it out for the medicine. And she goes, the story I heard was, she was saying, I could get my meds refilled for $4 from a Walmart and a couple other places. that offer, these generic meds. That's the only meds I'm on. She's in relatively good health, but she's 94, and they go that she's arguing with the Social Security and that because, but what happens if you get sick? And she turned to them and goes, I die. I'm 94 years old. If I go into, if you're not in your 90s and you go into the hospital, you probably don't expect to come out. That's the truth of the matter. I mean, people don't plan on living another 20 years if they go into the hospital and they're in their mid-90s. So if you're an older person and what's going on in your life, why not rob a bank? I mean, you think about it, and you're not going to succeed. You're going to die. But the question goes, it's there. Now, I'm not suggesting that I would rob a bank. I have a very full life. I enjoy what I'm doing. I enjoy how I'm going, and it's like right now I enjoy my work. But I'm older now, particularly than many of my viewers. If I look at the demographics. But you think about it and you go, if I wasn't as financially secure as I currently am, why not? Okay, prisons today are a rough place, much rougher than they were back when the film was made, the original film was made. And that's probably a truth thing, but the question is that, you just have to think, are you going to take a late 70, maybe 80-year-old guy who's had a clean record and then robs a bank? Are you going to put him in, the Supermax prison? Probably not. He won't survive. But the question comes up is he went out in style? It's the statement is, how do you really want to go out when you know you're going to go out? And it'd be rather better to go out with some sort of bang than to go out with some sort of whimper. It makes me think of the line from Patton, the movie. It says when your grandson climbs on your knee and says, "What did you do in the Great World War II?" And you don't have to tell him, I shoveled shit in Louisiana, but it's you can say that you did something else. And what that was what was so exciting about the original film, that you had characters who were there, and the scene with the gun and the bullets in the original is just hilarious. You look at them and they haven't played with guns, or maybe I can't remember. It's been a long time since I've watched that film, but it's a different, very different feel than the current 2017, which if there's nothing else on, okay, you almost go, wait till it's on cable, and if that's all that's on, and then it's going to have some insipid laughs, and I think I laughed once during the film. But if you want to have a film that is much more interesting, get the 1979 version of Going in Style. I highly recommend that film. So thank you for watching my video. I look forward to learning what you think about this video. Let me know in the comments below. I appreciate all your comments. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like the video, give me a thumbs down. I appreciate both forms of feedback. If you're new here and would like to subscribe, you can click on the icon on the left. If you're interested, there's more content on the right.